thank you to everyone with Congregational Life who coordinated that Easter brunch. That was amazing. Not just the Easter brunch, but also the Lenten soup lunches. For those of you who are new or who don't know, we share a simple soup and bread after the service with one another as a form of creating fellowship. And though the food is simple, the coordination is not. And so I just want to say just another round of applause for a Congregational Life Commission. Thank you to our supervisors. Our shared meals create community, and I love how PMC continues those traditions. We so need community in these times. I've been preaching a series of sermons that seek to articulate a vision for the church in apocalyptic times and really create a conversation with you all as a community. And next week we'll be offering a chance to reflect on this series of 3 sermons. You know, pastors probably can only think of series and alliterations, so I did as well. The 3 S's: sanctuary, solidarity, and now the 3rd sermon is on seeds. Sanctuary, solidarity, and seeds. What does it mean to follow Jesus, to be the church together in these times, apocalyptic times? Yesterday was Holy Saturday, this day between Good Friday and Easter that feels like a long pause between inhale and exhale, and inhale again. I think of the disciples on that Saturday after Jesus' death. Like the kids shared, they were probably feeling a lot of fear and terror. Their initial shock after the crucifixion may have been fading into despair or disappointment. Jesus' body has been shut away in the tomb, and they're no doubt exhausted. Their feelings ranging from grief to disbelief, hopelessness, maybe even shame at the betrayal of their teacher. The shadow of the cross looms large. The stone over the tomb seems so final, and in every direction they turn, it seems as if empire has truly triumphed. I don't know about you, but it feels like sometimes we're living in this extended Holy Saturday in this season of earth, in this season of our time. That evil has triumphed in so many forms, and that even our best efforts can't stop the powers and principalities from waging war, death, chaos, everywhere we turn. This became clear to me the other day, the sense of kind of looming anxiety that I feel like I've absorbed as well when I turned and I saw a beautiful cumulus cloud in the sky, and I thought, nuclear war. I couldn't even look at a cloud and experience beauty. I felt fear. I felt dread because of all of the events and the wars, skyrocketing what feels like violence in our world. A poet I recently read, Irish poet Katerina wrote, "The very nature of violence, the brutality that is such a core part of the story of our time, is such that it tries to leave us feeling helpless. The cruelty that ties our days together with its fierce, blood-stained rope is trying in myriad ways to bond us to hopelessness. It feels, does it not, no longer possible to imagine a life lived outside of the ropes of brutality," she wrote. Yet, imagining a life outside the ropes of brutality, those bloody ropes, is exactly what Easter is all about. Easter is about God's liberation of our imaginations and our bodies from the inevitability of death and defeat. It's about breaking the bond we have with hopelessness and despair and anxiety. Easter is a divine interruption of the totalizing logic of death with the power of nonviolent love, anti-violent love. This gives us hope, not a linear hope that things are going to get better, not the hope of progress or the hope of false optimism that minimizes death. Easter hope doesn't deny the cross. It doesn't deny death, but it transforms it. It transforms death. In an article called Feral Hope for Futurist Leaders, theologian Cody Sanders calls for what he calls feral hope, or wild hope, F-E-R-A-L. He writes, "Hope must be made wild again, undomesticated from its captivities to the ideologies of progress and the cultural conditioning of optimism. Feral hope is a hope that travels to the grave, the place of death, the aftermath of violence. Like the women whose story we heard today, coming to the tomb of the crucified beloved, not to witness resurrection, but to anoint a corpse with spices and tears. It is a hope against hope, a hope acquainted with hopelessness, a hope born in the alchemy of grief and wonder." These women who came to the tomb, who knew in their tradition that the body needed to be scented and anointed to keep off the stench of death, who despite their hopelessness persisted and came to the tomb to anoint Jesus' body. They demonstrate this hope that doesn't deny death, that doesn't look away, but goes right to that place of pain, right to the grave. This is the feral hope, the wild hope that we're called to. And throughout the Gospels, Jesus seems to know that his death is imminent, that the cross is coming, that he's going to die the death of a criminal and a revolutionary. He predicts his death in John 12:24, the passage we heard today, comparing it with the cycles of the natural world. Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." This is ancient agrarian wisdom that Jesus knew, so simple, so apparent in the natural world around us, right? Any of us can see a plant. To see a plant grow and multiply, we know that first a seed must die, must fall to the ground. And Jesus understood his life as that seed, as something to be released, something to be let go. And this is the core message of John's gospel, that God pours out agape love for the world through Jesus' life and death that he offers freely for the sake of others. This agape love is unconditional, fruitful, regenerative love, meaning it gives more than it takes. It produces many seeds when laid down and surrendered. I'll read the verses again. "Very truly I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Those who love their life lose it, and those who hate their life in the world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, there my servant will be also. Whoever serves me, God will honor." I read the verse that comes after the grain of wheat falling to the earth and dying, John 12:25, as a bit of hyperbole, because I don't think Jesus means for us to hate our lives. He calls us so many times into love for this present world and this life, but I read it as about attachment. Jesus asking us not to cling on to this life, to the current conditions of this world and of life, but being willing to let go, to release as not our own to keep forever. And in John 12:26, the next verse, we hear an invitation of Jesus to follow him as a seed that falls. "Whoever serves me must follow me." This is the path of discipleship, calling on us to imitate Jesus. How, I wonder, might we follow Jesus as resurrection seeds, as seeds of hope in this time and place? A lot of us know what it means to live in places of death, especially after the fires that burned through this landscape over a year ago. Toxic ash, you all remember, covered the ground here in Dina, in Altadena and Pasadena, because of the ways that old homes and insulation and batteries and other contaminants burned in the fires. Pollutants became airborne and then settled down, contaminating the soil with heavy metals like arsenic and lead. Scientists and public health officials warn that living in or near Altadena was like living near a war zone, larger than the site of the Twin Towers after their collapse. We don't yet know the long-term health impacts of this level of contamination. We don't yet know. We live in this unknown. And I felt the fear and the anxiety, especially as a pregnant person during that time, about just breathing the air outside or touching soil. As a gardener, I felt a lot of sadness and uncertainty about being able to touch the earth in the same way again, to plant seeds, to garden. I know some of you felt that as well, as people who love the soil, like I do. And yet there are actually seeds that we can plant that heal and clean the soil. And one of them is this humble sunflower seed that I have on a bowl on the altar. I'm going to ask the kids in the room, if you want to raise your hand, does anyone know how do sunflower seeds clean the soil? How do sunflower seeds help heal? Allie knows. No idea. Allie is a bold hand raiser. Well, sunflower seeds are pretty amazing, I think. They can actually help with what's called phytoremediation. Anyone want to say phytoremediation? Phyto means plant, and remediation means to reverse or stop environmental damage. So sunflowers can actually pick up into their tissue and bind, extract, and clean up contaminants like pesticides, petroleum, pollutants from oil spills, and vehicle emissions, or like the heavy metals that were contaminants after the wildfires like lead, cadmium, and arsenic. Millions of sunflowers. I looked at pictures online. It is beautiful and horrifying at the same time that millions of sunflowers were planted at nuclear disaster sites like Chernobyl and Fukushima. And they've been used to help clean up radioactive contaminants and to restore soil health. Recent studies in LA actually showed that a combination of plants like sunflowers and fungi significantly reduced contaminants and restored soil health. And as a part of the PMC gardening group that just got going, they're starting to organize shared land where people can go and kind of do community gardening in each other's yards where they have space available. Since I didn't have a lot of gardening space, Frank and Erica offered to share their garden, and I've planted some sunflowers there that their child Noah has been watering and are starting to grow. I've been seeing the sprouts coming out of the soil. And this humble sunflower planted in toxic soil, I believe, can be a metaphor and more than a metaphor for Jesus' resurrection. This sunflower seed is a seed of hope in the aftermath of destruction. On the cross, Jesus, like the sunflower, absorbed the sins of the world, our violence, our death. He took on himself the ways that we have polluted the planet with our greed, injustice, and harms against one another and the rest of creation. In life, Jesus is a healer and also in death. And like the sunflower, which transforms heavy metals and contaminants and binds them to its own body, Jesus heals through remediation and not retaliation. Jesus transforms what we ourselves cannot heal and then is cut down. Jesus is cut down, but lives and scatters seeds. And we are the seeds of resurrection that continue Jesus' original movement that has reseeded and multiplied generation after generation. And we might say that maybe some of those seeds are, I don't know, GMO seeds or mutant seeds that kind of lost their path a little bit. And we have a calling to call them back to healing, to the way of healing. Each generation of seeds adapts to its context and then passes down memories and stories to the next generation. Yet unless the seeds fall in self-giving love, unless they die and are replanted, the lives of seeds are not passed on. So I wonder, how can we as individuals and as a church community be like the sunflower? How can we practice resurrection and healing despite all evidence to the contrary? How can we regenerate life in places of pain and intense devastation? How can we nurture seeds for the future during times of collapse? These are the questions that I ask us to hold together, especially as we prepare to host a Project of Hope in the coming months. Mennonite Disaster Service, or MDS, is going to be part of our response of our church community to the catastrophic wildfires. It already is. You can see the new stove in the kitchen and the coming appliances and the ways that we're already preparing this space for Mennonite Disaster Service volunteers. Dan Sharp has been taking a lot of leadership in that, and Dave Lehman, and I'm so grateful because this is going to transform our church, I think, in ways we don't even comprehend at this time or know. It's going to challenge us, and it's going to, I believe, renew us in some ways. Crews of volunteers from across the country for the next 3 years will be hosted here in RVs in the parking lot starting in June, when they're going to be rebuilding homes, especially for those who are underinsured or uninsured. And I see this as a resurrection interruption in the runaway capitalism of the insurance market. I see this as an interruption in the speculative land buying and home flipping that's happening in Altadena, helping people to stay in their homes, especially low-income folks who didn't have access to other sources of funding to be able to keep their homes or to rebuild their homes. We're going to partner with other groups to identify folks and to work with them and walk with them. In the next 3 years, the aim is to build actually 15 houses, up to 15 houses per year, starting with the parsonage where our own sister church pastor, Pastor Juan Pablo and his family were living before it burned down. I know some of you have lived in that house as well. This is going to be a major operation. So we have an opportunity through MDS to be active and not just passive seeds of hope in response to the wildfires. We have an opportunity to be remediators with God. And I hope that some of the work that we do perhaps can also include the rest of the land, that we can be part of healing for the soil, healing for the plants, healing for the animals who are also affected by the wildfires, because Jesus' healing and cross wasn't just for human creation, but for all the earth, and we can extend that kind of hope as well. I want to say, I consider myself an activist. I yearn to be on a path of discipleship that involves imagining a different future and working towards that future together with you all, shoulder to shoulder. I'm inspired by the activism at PMC, but I want to say to all of us that we don't heal or make change on our own. I believe that resurrection hope holds that progress isn't enough, that by our own efforts, we are still seeing collapse. But resurrection hope holds that God is a power that energizes us, that empowers us to be part of healing and transforming the world, that it's not up to us alone to act. And I love the mission statement that PMC adopted a number of years ago from our wider denomination, and I'll read it for us right now. God calls us to be followers of Jesus Christ, and by the power of the Holy Spirit, to grow as communities of grace, joy, and peace, so that God's healing and hope flow through us and to the world. We are conduits. We are blood vessels of God's healing and hope. We are the vascular tissue of sunflowers, not the source of hope. It may take a long time for us and the earth to heal. I'm going to say that again. It may take generations. Let that sink in. Generations. We are in this for the long haul of life of seeds after crop of seeds after life of seeds, generations to heal from the brutal cords of injustice. Many generations beyond what we will witness in our lifetime, but we can trust that what we do is enough when we offer our lives, our whole selves, to be parts, small seeds, but together great fields of sunflowers, part of God's healing vision. We cooperate with God to do what we can to make a difference, and then we release our lives into God's hands, like Jesus did, to be buried as seeds. So I brought these seeds to our altar today, sunflower seeds, because I like holding on to something. I think that's why Jesus gave us his body and bread and communion, because he knew we needed something to hold on to. So I embrace the material and the ways that we need signs of hope to hold on to. So I want to invite you during an altar call, which we don't often do as Mennonites, but I'm going to invite us during the next song as Dave Lehman and the group plays this song. If you want to come forward, you are welcome to. I have some envelopes here. And you are welcome to take some seeds from this bowl, some of these sunflower seeds, to be a reminder of our call to be participants in resurrection healing for all of our relationships, human, soil, animal, and more. And after the service, if you're not one of the kids or part of the Easter egg hunt, or if you want to participate after the Easter egg hunt, you're welcome to join me in planting a drought-tolerant variety of sunflowers out in front of this church, just some very dry ground facing Altadena Drive. And we're going to see if these native sunflowers bloom in the next year. So like I said, during the next song, please come forward if you wish. You're also welcome to come after the service. The envelopes are here. And if you need some resurrection power, if you need a little bit more hope to help you keep going, if you need power from Jesus' resurrection body to empower you to be remediators, healers with God of all things, land, relationships, and bodies, you're welcome to come forward. And you may also think of areas of your life where you need healing, where you need God's interrupting love and hope to come in the face of death. So I welcome you whenever you're ready, and if you choose, to come and be a sunflower with us.